Welcome back, children. See, in the last class of nuclei, I told you about the properties of nucleus, and at the same time I have already studied, or I told you about the discovery of neutron. Then coming to today's class, okay, we'll be studying about two very important concepts of this chapter. Okay, one is mass defect, then binding energy, packing fraction, and average binding energy. So these four terms we are going to discuss in today's lecture. So to begin with, let us see what is the meaning of mass defect. Okay, it was practically observed that if you calculate the mass of nucleus, okay, yesterday I told you in the last class that how do we determine the mass of nucleus, because composition of nucleus is protons and neutrons. So mass of nucleus is given by Z into mass of proton, because there are Z protons in it, plus A minus Z into mass of neutron. But it was observed that when you evaluate the mass of nucleus using this relation and also find the mass of nucleus from spectroscopic measurements or by experimental value, experimental mass. Okay, let the experimental mass of nucleus be written as capital N, and this is the calculated mass. Okay, it was observed that all the time your experimental mass and calculated mass were differing from each other. So the experimental mass is always less when compared with the calculated mass. So suppose you take the example of any nuclei like 7n14. Okay, we know there are 7 protons and 7 neutrons in it. Put the mass of proton and mass of neutron calculated by using this relation. Also find its experimental mass very accurately, then let the value be capital N. It is always observed that there is a difference between calculated mass and experimental mass. So this difference between the calculated mass and experimental mass, we call it as mass defect. So you can write mass defect delta M as Z into mass of proton plus A minus Z into mass of neutron minus capital N. This is the mass of nucleus of that particular atom. Okay, so there is one more relation to calculate the mass defect. Okay, so this I gave you in terms of mass of proton, mass of neutron, and the mass of nucleus. So one more way of writing this mass defect is Z into mass of hydrogen. Okay, we know what is the mass of hydrogen. Hydrogen contains one electron and one proton. So it is mass of proton plus mass of electron. So instead of mass of proton, if I write here the mass of hydrogen, then you can modify this relation as Z into mass of hydrogen plus A minus Z into mass of neutron minus mass of atom. Okay, since we know that mass of atom, what is the mass of atom? It is the mass of nucleus plus Z times the mass of electron. Atom contains both the nucleus as well as electrons. If you add both of them, you get the mass of atom. Okay, since here in the place of mass of proton, I have taken the mass of hydrogen. See, we get in addition to proton, Z times the mass of electron is coming in excess. Okay, which will anyway get subtracted here. So either this relation or this relation, both of them will give you the mass defect. Okay, again I repeat, there is a difference between the experimentally calculated mass of nucleus and the calculated mass of nucleus. Always experimental mass was found to be slightly lesser than the calculated mass. This difference is nothing but called as mass defect. So we can write mass defect in two different relations. One is in terms of mass of proton. If you are writing it as mass of proton here, then it is mass of nucleus. Okay, we know nuclear mass is atoms mass minus mass of electrons. Instead, if you replace this mass of proton with mass of hydrogen, you can write this as mass of atom. So, this is the meaning of mass defect. Okay, now that we have understood what is mass defect, now let's look into what is binding energy. So to understand this binding energy, we'll be making use of Einstein's mass energy equivalence. Okay, so all of you are familiar with the relation E is equal to mc square, which is called Einstein's mass energy equivalence. Okay, where C is nothing but 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. The amount of energy equivalent to a mass m was given by this particular relation. Now I'll be taking the help of this relation to understand binding energy. So let's go back to mass defect once again. We have seen that the calculated mass of nucleus, okay, which is the sum of masses of all the nucleons present, that is Z into mass of proton plus A minus Z into mass of neutron, and experimental mass of nucleus. Okay, we took it as capital N. Since calculated mass is found to be slightly greater than experimental mass, so what can we talk about the corresponding energies? The energy associated with calculated mass of individual nucleons inside the nucleus is greater when compared with the energy of the bound nucleus. Okay, if all the nucleons are together, we call it as a bound nucleus. So the total energy associated with the individual nucleons inside the nucleus, all the individual electrons inside the nucleus, is greater when compared to the total energy associated with the bound nucleus. So what can we understand from this? There is a difference in these two energies. So therefore, from a bound nucleus, if you have to separate them into individual nucleons, that means if you want to separate a bound nucleus into its constituent nucleons, we need to supply some amount of energy. Just now I told you this energy is less. If you supply some energy, you can split the nucleus into its constituent nucleons. So this energy required to split or separate all the nucleons into individual nucleons inside a bound or from a bound nucleus is nothing but called as binding energy. Again I repeat, the amount of energy that you need to supply or require to split a bound nucleus into constituent nucleons is nothing but called as binding energy. The energy difference is nothing but called as binding energy. So you can also define it in the other way. See, if you have to supply energy to split a bound nucleus into its nucleons, the reverse. If all the nucleons are combining to form a bound nucleus, it is going to release the same amount of energy. So either ways you can define binding energy. Again I am repeating both the definitions. One is the energy required to split a nucleus into its constituent nucleons. Reverse, amount of energy released when a nucleus is being formed from its constituent nucleons. So this energy associated is nothing but called as binding energy. And if you calculate this binding energy per nucleon, that means you have calculated the binding energy by using this relation. How to get the binding energy? Z into mass of proton plus A minus Z into mass of neutron minus mass of nucleus. Is this your mass defect? Multiplied with C square. Okay, I can write it as delta M into C square. This gives you the relation for binding energy. But we know we all the time use delta M in atomic mass units, and C is speed of light, which is 3 into 10 to the power 8. But instead of getting the answer in terms of joules, if you want it in joules, delta M should be in a kilogram. C is nothing but the speed of light. But very often in this chapter we will be using the unit electron volts. So 1 electron volt, what is it equivalent to? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. So I am going to modify this formula for binding energy so that you get the answer in terms of mega electron volts. So let's see, 1 AMU. If I take delta M as 1 atomic mass unit, which is 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. Let us see what is the equivalent amount of energy. E is equal to 1.67 10 power minus 27 C square 3 into 10 power 8 whole square. This gives the answer in terms of joules, but I want in electron volts. Divide it with 1.6 into 10 power minus 19. So when you do all this calculation, we get the energy as 931.5 mega electron volts. Okay, mega is 10 to the power 6. So if you want to get the answer directly in mega electron volts, you can modify the relation for binding energy. This can also be written as delta M in atomic mass units into 931.5, so that your answer comes in which units? Mega electron volts. So this relation is going to give me the formula for binding energy. Again I repeat, just now I told you what is binding energy. Since the energy associated with the calculated mass of individual nucleons is greater than the energy associated with the bound nucleus, the difference in these two energies is called as binding energy, which is defined as energy required to split a bound nucleus into its constituent nucleons, or the reverse, energy released when you form a nucleus from its constituent, or when a nucleus is formed from its constituent nucleons. And if you want to get the energy directly in mega electron volts, it is mass defect multiplied with 931.5 that will give the answer in MeV. But remember, mass defect should be in which units? Atomic mass units. And we use this relation more often in this particular chapter. And you can also remember this. What is the energy equivalent to one atomic mass unit? It's 931.5 mega electron volts. Now that you have understood what is binding energy and mass defect, let's look into what is average binding energy. Okay, average binding energy, it is defined as binding energy per nucleon. Okay, we know A gives you the number of nucleons inside the nucleus. The total binding energy divided by A. This gives me average or mean binding energy. See, by making use of this average binding energy, we can start or discuss about the stability of the nucleus. See, if average binding energy is very high, then you can say it is highly stable. It's very difficult to separate the nucleons from the nucleus. If binding energy or average binding energy is less, it is unstable. So even nuclear reactions can also be understood by making use of this term average binding energy. So as per the definition, it is binding energy per nucleon. You can also define it as the amount of energy required to remove a nucleon from a bound nucleus. See, previously total binding energy was the energy required to separate all the nucleons to infinity. Whereas if you want to remove one nucleon, the amount of energy associated is nothing but called as average binding energy. As I told you, it's important for understanding the stability of nucleus. Okay, as similar to average binding energy, there is one more term which also explains the stability of nucleus. Okay, just now I told you average binding energy helps in understanding the stability of nucleus. Even packing fraction helps us in understanding the stability of nucleus. So now I will also tell you what is packing fraction and how is it related to average binding energy. So coming to packing fraction, it is defined as, okay, packing fraction. It is defined as the ratio of excess mass per mass number. Okay, this term M minus A, okay, where M is the mass of atom, A is the mass number, and you know A, capital A is again the mass number. So M minus A by A is nothing but called as packing fraction. Don't confuse with mass defect. This numerator is called as excess mass. Okay, where capital M is the mass of atom, not the mass of nucleus. So excess mass per mass number is nothing but called as packing fraction. Okay, we use the symbol F for representing packing fraction. So F is equal to M by A minus 1. Okay, this is called your packing fraction. Now let us see how is this related to average binding energy. But while writing this binding energy, I will be using the units mass units. See, if you multiply mass defect with C square, you get the answer in terms of joules or in terms of a mega electron volts. If you don't multiply with this C square, the corresponding energy is nothing but called as energy expressed in mass units. So I am going to continue in mass units. So how do we write binding energy in terms of mass units? It is Z into mass of hydrogen plus A minus Z into mass of neutron minus mass of atom. Okay, here also I will write it is the mass of atom. Divide with A. Okay, throughout I am dividing this number with A. Remember, the units of this are mass units, not mega electron volts. Now, binding energy per nucleon, if I call it as average binding energy expressed in mass units, it is Z by A, mass of hydrogen, open the bracket, plus mass of neutron, minus Z by A into mass of neutron, minus mass of atom divided by A. So these two terms contain Z by A, take out common Z by A into mass of hydrogen minus mass of neutron, mass of hydrogen minus mass of neutron plus mass of neutron minus. So instead of mass of atom divided by A, M by A, can I write it as 1 plus F in terms of packing fraction? This is 1 plus F. On simplifying this relation, okay, I will write it on the other side. Average binding energy in terms of mass units can be written as, see, mass of hydrogen minus mass of neutron will give you a positive value. I am not putting the values here. Z minus A into MH minus Mn plus mass of neutron is a positive value. Open the bracket. Minus 1 minus F. Z by A, mass of hydrogen minus mass of neutron plus, we know mass of neutron is 1 point, okay, hope you remember, no, in terms of atomic mass units, 0.0866 minus 1, I can write it as 0.00866 minus F. So this gives you the relation between average binding energy and packing fraction. See, from this relation you can say, if average binding energy is maximum, packing fraction was to be minimum. Only if F is minimum, you get this as maximum. So if average binding energy is more, we say this, the nucleus is highly stable. So in terms of packing fraction, it is reverse. If packing fraction is minimum, then the nucleus is very stable. Or if it is negative, we say it is more stable. Positive value of packing fraction, it is less stable. Whereas in terms of average binding energy, it is directly explained. More average binding energy, more is the stability of nucleus. Less average binding energy, less is the stability of nucleus. So these four terms what we have discussed today, mass defect, binding energy, average binding energy and packing fraction, are very helpful in understanding the stability and the nature of nuclear forces, nuclear reactions and so on. So this part I will explain in the next class. That means by using average binding energy curve, how you can understand the stability of nucleus. So these four basic terms, remember, they are very important for the further part of the chapter.